Or let's get right back into it. Hopefully we're going to be meeting with Mr. Airlock Sholmes pretty soon. 19th of February, 2:38 p.m., Briar Road. Looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation.
Perfect. So let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips. Look at that silver tip Iris gave us for him. Hey, the man, the myth, the legend, he's here. Right, I should probably just present what I need to present to him. Hey, do you like money? Cause, we got some money. Huh? Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gadabouts, that's for sure.
We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson.
What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship?
Give that here, once! Come on, hand it over, that's for me!
Don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? Why are you excited to get something from a 10-year-old? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously, but there's a lot more than that. It's an appearance fee, that's what it is.
An appearance fee? Oh, I see. You mean...
That's right. For the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. So dumb that they have to do that. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me, every time.
Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly.
Of course, using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still. I'm sorry, Inspector, that must be difficult for you. Never you mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously, it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? So many things.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings.
I'm sure that'll be useful to somebody. Oh, the little knife-wielding mustache Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over there. Look. Wow, it's literally right across the road. On the first floor of that house on the corner where that wreck of a bicycle's propped up. Is that bicycle wreck somehow relevant?
That is nearby indeed.
If I remember rightly, the landlord is a Mr. John Garrideb. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it. You tell her that Gregson sent his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Are you simping for a 10-year-old? That's the weirdest situation I've ever heard of.
Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left.
Yeah, so then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings?
Definitely.
Mochiron! Alright. Let's just go right in, I guess. I bet you Mr. Sholmes is going to be in here. Bet. Why is there a frilly apron or maid's covering on the cannon there? Oh. Hello. May I help you? Yes. Would this be the residence of Mr. John Garrideb? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Rinosuke Naruhodo.
Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Sasuke Natsume. I believe he takes his lodgings here.
Oh? The maid seemed excited to hear that, somehow.
We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client.
One moment, please. I shall convey this message to Mr. Garrideb. Did you see that, Mr. Sato? That was a real-life English maid.
I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better.
It certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it?
We need only to meet a butler and the experience will be complete.
Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting.
Mr. Garadeb, we'll see you now. This way.
Oh, he looks kind of like a boomerang or a crescent moon. Apparently I can't talk with him yet because I have to examine the man.
Good day to you. John Garadeb at your service.
Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Rinosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer.
Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwon, don't you know? Earned a medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings.
So he's a retired soldier.
It's a hell of a job getting up and down stairs now, I can tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine.
Yes, it's quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. God, you're...
You must really take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo.
I was going to say the same thing, Susato. Do you think so?
Well, Mr. Garadeb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal.
Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just a folderol, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch it. Damn it all, woman, be careful. Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir. You jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I shall be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now.
Yeah, I see.
Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap lodging downstairs, is that right?
Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us.
Only too pleased, naturally. Especially if it helps to keep the peace here in Blighty.
Are you stirring it with your pipe, you weirdo?
We forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were.
Oh, is it? Just like the first one I did. Like, it's the same stakes.
Even had some famous detective poking around, you know. In this old house, would you believe?
Yes, Mr. Erlock Sholmes.
Oh, could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business.
Oh, but you have a copy of Rance magazine here, so...
Eh? Hmm? Ah, no, Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak.
I knew it. So he's in Soseki-san's room. Sokasi-san's. Soseki,
It's a bally nuance, is what it is. The whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss, it's jolly unsettling.
Fair enough.
About Mr. Natsume then, Mr. Garadeb, please do tell us.
Ah, yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week.
Oh, just 1 week? So he moved in very recently then.
I have 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago, you see. Dash it all, Joan, do be careful. Oh, my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him.
Well, that's kind of rude.
Oh, why?
He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written across his sweat-soaked brow, if you asked me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything.
We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure.
Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all?
Why does she keep lighting up like a Christmas tree?
Yes, oh yes, indeed there was.
And she's dying to tell us. Oh, okay. You could have just gone straight into it. Had you noticed anything else at all about your lodger, Mr. Natsume?
Oh my word, yes. The man was shadier than an orchard.
Could you elaborate?
Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is, more than anyone could ever read. He never so much as passes a time of day without another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed, too.
Oh, I see.
The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night, but I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning.
Well, then you stay up too, I guess.
Ah. Could you clarify something, I wonder?
What, pray?
How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine?
Oh,
You got the hots for Mr. Natsume? Huh? Come on, Joan. You can tell me. I keep secrets really well. Super well. I'm the best.
I'd understand that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house, is that correct?
that's right, yes. They're both below us, on the first floor and street level.
Then how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed.
Well, you want to tell me, Joan?
Good grief, Joan. Be more careful, woman.
Oh my goodness, sir. I'm terribly sorry, sir.
Is this just how it is? Something doesn't add up here. Well, let's talk about the incident, I guess. It seems that the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out of the window at that time?
The window?
Yeah, that one right there.
Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby?
5 o'clock is dinner time here in the Garadeb household, so I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan?
No, sir. It would have been dusk outside already at that hour. And with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road.
Oh, I see.
Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary then?
Such as?
Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated.
Well,
Yes, was there something then?
well, it's nothing particularly significant, but around that sort of For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing.
Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir.
Do be more careful, woman.
Also, this tea kettle is just infinite. Also, I should say teapot. I guess that's not the kettle.
Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow.
Yeah?
I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour. Nothing at all.
Oh, really? Mr. Garadeb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been.
Oh, well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter, really, nothing...
Okay,
Joan, dash it all, what is the matter with you, woman?
she's hiding something.
Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened.
Yeah, that time you did it on purpose.
Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quiet, uneventful meal. Joan?
That's right, Mr. Garadeb.
Nah. What is the matter with these two?
It sounds like something happened here in this room on the evening of the incident, but what?
I wish I knew. Like, I don't know if me pressing them about it is gonna actually, like, tell us any more information. Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsume's room is on?
Why, certainly. Just below us on the first floor.
And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there even as we speak?
Yes. Told me Nats's name and asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key.
Mr. Natsume has engaged Mr. Sholmes' services?
Nope, that's a lie. Would it be alright if we also had a look around? In Mr. Natsume's room, I mean.
Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs.
Who knows if we'll find anything that could help us with the case, but we have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we?
Yes. And while we're there, we can speak with Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more.
Alright. You know what, actually? I kind of want to examine that metal. Just want to see what it's all about. Ooh, that is sensitive.
That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner.
Yeah, it's displayed with some pride, I would say. Although it bothers me that it's not straight.
What, that old thing?
Sorry?
I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn in his grave if I disposed of it. The wall's the best place for it. Keeps the baldy thing out of my way.
So it's just been polished to shine by accident, I suppose?
There appears to be an inscription on the metal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, "For distinguished participation."
Sounds like the kind of honors even I would be in line for.
Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles.
Okay, so you are... Wait. There's definitely like a fire or something that happened here.
Look at that enormous screen. It must have been put there deliberately, surely.
Yeah, it looks like someone's trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder?
I'm going to have a very quick look. Just a little peek.
Ahem! Ahem! Maybe let's not, Miss Susato. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. Ahem! Ahem! Alright, well, definitely intrigued to see what's behind that screen eventually, but let's get going to Natsume's room. Yep, I'm totally sure that a new location was added. Not a problem. The cat! Hello! There are a lot of books, more so than I expected. You know, it kind of looks like a dungeon in here, too. I mean, maybe that prison cell isn't so different for him. What? Just look at this place and smell it. It's so musty in here. You know, you can tell a person's neuroticism by the air quality of their room. There was research on that. I suppose it's the mountain of old books that are responsible for that.
I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life.
No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Yeah, the window is like bricked up.
Is that the window over there?
Well, it was the window, I think. Yes, once upon a time. But for some reason it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives.
By the way,
I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Garrideb told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. Maybe he turned into that cat. I'm going to examine the cat. Hello, beautiful. You're amazing. I love you.
oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking after all the books while his master is away.
I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Maiki, wasn't it? Maiki? Is that the name of a cat breed? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain?
Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan.
That's made me feel homesick now.
Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days.
Yeah, but the trip over took 50. Are you forgetting that? 50 days on that freaking ship? Ugh. Gross. Okay, well, let's talk about this waste bin. Look at all these balls of paper on the floor. There are notes scrawled all over them, in English. It looks like the waste paper basket is so full they've just fallen out.
I think Mr. Natsume must have been deeply immersed in his research, don't you?
Or deeply averse to tidying up his mess.
I wouldn't like to speculate which is closer to the truth.
Yeah, neither would I.
That desk seems to be wedged into a crevasse between the mountains of books on either side.
I suppose Mr. Natsume would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tomes, surely he dreamt of books every night as well.
Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your Books.
Oh yeah, Mr. Natsume's name is on it. Look, and the date of purchase. 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident.
That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I really don't need to search the books more, do I? I can't search his mail? Well, I guess that is probably like a legal offense.
Oh, look, it's a beckoning cat from home.
It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him.
I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you forgetting the enormous Daruma doll that you brought in your luggage?
Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted a lucky charm.
Well, I imagine Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and this cat is sure to beckon good luck to him.
It's not doing a very good job so far, is it?
You mustn't say such things.
I didn't say a word. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? Everything you think is just out loud. It's just a fact, and that's okay. What is that weird thing on the wall? This appears to be some sort of meter on the wall here. It looks very robust. I wonder what it's for. There's a slot for inserting coins here, too.
Ah, I believe that is a gas meter, Mr. Naruhodo.
A gas meter?
Yes, it seems there is piped gas in this district, which consumers pay for by putting coins in the meter.
So, if we were to put a coin in the slot...
that would be enough gas to use the lights and the gas fire for the whole night.
So, if you're too poor to have a coin, you'd have to spend the night in the dark and freezing cold?
That's right. As would a rich man who only carried crisp white notes.
Ugh, London is a scary place. Yeah, I mean, London at this time was not super fun to me. Could you even call this a window?
I think so. It was a window at one time, after all. Although all that remains is a frame around some bricks now.
So really it's just a wall then, isn't it? But why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that?
I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah! Perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design on in a fit of whimsy.
That's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive.
It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying.
Yeah, it's not good for your mental state, that's for sure. Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling.
They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty.
With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you?
No, what a dreamy idea.
A bad dream, maybe, for me at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again.
Ah, so reading it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us.
I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. Oh, what else is there to look at in this room? Oh, I'm missing an entire side. Yep, then there he is. Okay.
Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo.
It's the dude. Aha, there he is. Where did he appear from?
He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, you two. Good day. Now, let me see. Where was it that we met?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes. We were together on the SS Buria.
Yes, of course, the Buria. And let me see. What happened on that voyage? It was Kazuma Asogi. He died, tragically, but you were a great help to us.
Ah, yes, but of course. The case of Mr. Asogi.
It was the one with the snake, wasn't it?
Oh.
Well, you seem to remember something of it, at least.
What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Erlock Sholmes. This is Mr...
Oh, no, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic.
Miss Naruhodo.
And Mr. Susato. Well, close enough, I guess. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes.
I lose the first round.
Man, I like your style, but you're kind of stupid. In truth, I'd hoped to invite the both of you to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London, but some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. So they apprehended Soseki-san in that short amount of time? I'm afraid in the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little? Is it a mistake to think about... Is it a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend to any extent? I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, you know, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately, my associate pens them beautifully. He means Iris, I suppose.
Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned.
Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madam, I should be only too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. Alright, well then let's get right to it, shall we? We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Sosuke Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road. Natsume. Yes, I believe it was a name rather along those lines.
But Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little?
I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean.
What?
I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance. I assure you, I'm not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as if the pair of you are under some misapprehension. Oh? How? I assure you I have no recollection of accusing your stooped compatriot of the crime. But that doesn't make sense. The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote verbatim. We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene. A man seen fleeing. There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they'd been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a receipt around here somewhere from the establishment in question. So, you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit, then? That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliography. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. No, no, no.
Oh dear.
Tell me. Have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings? Yes, Mr. Garadeb, a retired military man.
It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the services.
And it was the first time I've ever met a maid from the great British institution that is... service. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may well be aware, many households in London employ a maid.
Yes, I read as much in my Great Britain primer.
And of course you have a primer. And so conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein. Betoken their social standing? Sorry? Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family.
Goodness, how extraordinary.
As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower classes, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea, and it is for precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs, specifically in the retired army veteran, Mr. John Garadeb. Oh? Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am as yet unable to ascertain. I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot there, definitely. This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man whose lot is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later.
Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one.
But sooner or later, as I said.
I don't believe that's the issue here.
About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea? No window? Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window, of sorts. Yeah, but it's been completely blocked with bricks. Oh, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax. Window tax? What is that?
Surely not a tax on windows.
Precisely that.
Oh my goodness.
Was that actually a thing?
Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home perhaps, rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there, and everywhere, in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light.
Indeed, disease was rife as a result. So some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsume's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I've done a little digging, and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price.
Because the room is so awful, I should think.
Apparently Mr. Natsume only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh? Still, that is of little relevance here. A matter not worthy of further attention. Are you sure? I'm curious now. I feel like there's more to talk about there. But whatever. Who am I to say? Well, I believe I've told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remember that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized, and so promptly, too. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients? To trust in their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he? Ah! My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Oh yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts that I can state quite unequivocally. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to having seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. Ah, and one more thing.
Oh, what is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us.
I cannot say with any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to this case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something. Oh yeah, I already knew that. Come on. Mr. Garadeb is? Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case.
Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that could establish Mr. Natsume's innocence.
No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garadeb's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo. And just like that, he disappeared into the ether, never to be seen again. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. Alright, well, let's talk to Mr. Garadeb. There's got to be something that I can figure out here, right? Like maybe the maid's not around. Although it does just seem to be this one room. I don't know if there's anything more.
Ah, you Peregrine. Tell me, was a detective chap, I forget his name, still hard at work down there?
Mr. Erlock Sholmes?
Ah, yes. Rings a vague bell. All that detective business isn't really my thing, I'm afraid.
Well, Mr. Sholmes is in his element down there.
Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Joan. Now then, why don't you tell me what... For the umpteenth time, woman, will you watch what you're bally well doing?
I shall be serving dinner shortly, sir.
Ah, yes, of course. Frightfully rude of me, but I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to take your leave if you'd be so kind.
Oh, yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for all your assistance.
Not at all, not at all. Don't get much a chance to talk with young foreigners like yourselves. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck and all that. Perhaps you could see yourselves out.
According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garadeb is hiding something. And since no other avenues of investigation seem open to us at the moment, perhaps we should do some digging. Wait, what the heck? What? What? Where did you come from? How did you end up in the window? Oh, why is all this stuff messed up over here too? Did the cannon go off? Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? Oh my, a genuine... How would she say it? Genuine or genuine? I'm just gonna say genuine.
Oh my, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shelves seem to be broken and the crockery is... Oh dear, it's in pieces.
So it is. It really is. The word cracked wouldn't do that chinaware justice.
Ah, I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it.
Yes, probably something like that, but let's not delve too deeply here. Alright, Mr. Sholmes, I don't know how you got in here. Ah, what's he doing over there?
Mr. Sholmes?
Aha, we meet again, my dear fellows.
Good gracious, when did you sneak in here?
Olok Sholmes, sir, at your service.
Whatever were you doing there over by the window?
I'm given to watching the evening sky as the sun sets, madam. Yet sadly, cheerful as the room downstairs undoubtedly is, it lacks an aperture for such observation. So I took the liberty of borrowing a small corner of space by the window up here.
Well.
Keeping an eye to one's windows at dusk is the prudent thing to do in London, I'm gathering. Ah, and one other thing, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, me? I thought perhaps you might be in need of a certain great detective's great mind. Are we gonna do a great deduction? Oh, that would be amazing! Wait, he's not talking about... Is he? I didn't expect to be going through that again so soon.
Do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
There is a mighty secret in this modest room. My eyes see even the most trivial of trifles. I take it you're prepared, Mr. Naruhodo? I have never been more prepared in my freaking life. There's just time enough for one of my greatly admired great deductions. Let us conclude the matter before dark. We're doing it. Mr. Garadeb, though it would seem you are a military man of considerably distinguished service, your standing as a landlord is most certainly not what one might call first-rate. I'm afraid, sir, that it is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions I've been able to draw by careful observation of your living arrangements.
I beg your pardon?
The first is that even as we speak, you are concealing the presence of a ferocious beast in your care.
Eh?
And the second is that as a result of the beast's violent rampage, you have lost something very dear to you.
Mr. Naruhodo, look.
The old man's broken out in a cold sweat. Unbelievably, it seems Mr. Sholmes' conclusions are both spot on.
How? How could you possibly?
How could I possibly know, you mean to inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir. For in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts. And I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, shall we begin? Once again, Olok Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular.
The game is afoot.
I seriously love these so much. What would the beast be, though? It wouldn't be the cat, would it? It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? Oh? Ah, for a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garadeb, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by the lion statue. Yes, though an army man, you appear unimposing at best. A fact that has fueled your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of beasts.
What is this piffle, I ask you?
In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimen shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. What? Wait, he had a slap on his face. I saw that for like a split second. Yet living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you had imagined. The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well... Yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is. Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. For protruding from it is a handbill advertising a circus show. Ah! Yes, you sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Garadeb, at Batty's Circus, a traveling show currently sojourning in a nearby park. I have observed the tents. You sold the savage lion, sir, to the circus troupe. I most certainly did not. I believe I've made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion, and a simple visit to the circus now will reveal the lion prancing jubilantly through a ring of fire. There's absolutely 0% chance that that is correct. Now, Mr. Garadeb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. No, it's obviously revealed by the slap mark on your face. Amid fits of tears, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing something so dear to you is clearly visible in your visage. Nonsense, man, I simply... But what, we must now ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? Oh, they both looked. And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is this pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Every envelope contains another demand for payment. Ah. For cartloads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved has had a devastating impact on the financial circumstances of your household. And so you had no choice but to let it go. Yes, well, Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath of which can be clearly seen by observing the carpet over there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, dearie me. What could have caused such a destructive outburst? Oh? Ah. This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. What? Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. Ah! There is no creature more dangerous on this earth than a beast with an unsatiated appetite. Was it or was it not once said by a certain noblewoman, if they have no bread, let them eat cake? Which actually meant, like, dirt pies, essentially, at the time. Food is at the heart of all tragedy, in fact. Whatever do you mean? Having tired of the taste of cake, the beast began to stalk its next prey. I'm sure I need not spell out the nature of this final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There's only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks in the carpet are a perfect match with those of a lion I once saw in India. What? Oh, great job, Mr. Detective. Yeah, good job, yeah. Not even close. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this beastly puzzle. Oh, jeez. What is the matter with you, Joan? You're pouring scalding hot tea all over me. Also, that said scolding, but I'm 100% positive it meant scalding. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Garadeb. I'm afraid I didn't notice. My deductions can be startlingly sharp. It stands to reason that your cup runneth over.
Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears at times, too.
Oh.
Mr. Sholmes, sorry to butt in again, but could I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it, again? Well, your deductions just now, do you really think a lion could have fit inside a room of this size? Indeed, it is the only explanation for the facts. The terrifying truth all too often lies behind the realms of common sense. But wouldn't it be an idea to consider what lies inside the realms of common sense as well?
But if an uncaged lion had run amok in this very room, surely Mr. Garrideb and his maid would have been hurt, or worse.
Oh, that's where you are stuck. No doubt the former military man held his own against the beast using that large cannon. I thought you said that they sold the lion to the circus.
And what about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing, but I don't believe I have ever heard of a lion that drinks tea.
My dear Miss Susato, it occurs to me with some regularity that, irrespective of race and breeding, whenever anyone lands on Great British soil, they are infused with a highly appropriate taste for afternoon tea. Yeah, I mean, it happened to me, and it can happen to you. Or, excuse me, and it can happen to you.
Oh, what a glorious nation! Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's your turn to shine again.
I had a feeling that was coming.
A slight massage, that's all Mr. Sholmes' deductions need. You can do it.
Excellent. I've been waiting for my trusty partner in deduction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know yet whether or not this is going to help in Mr. Natsume's case. Still, uncovering the truth is always worthwhile, whatever the motivation. I agree entirely. At least that's what I want to believe. Let us start again from the beginning. Of Erlach Sholmes' logic and reasoning spectacular. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see. Yeah. That a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? Yeah, so is it the maid that we're talking about? Ah, for a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garrideb, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that lion statue. No. I really didn't see the lion thing coming.
No, but if you observe Mr. Garrideb's reaction, it rather seems as though some beast did indeed run amok here in this room.
Yes, something with a very fierce nature.
But it couldn't have been a lion transported from India.
So, what was it then?
We must follow Mr. Garrideb's gaze. That will lead us to the true answer.
Oh! Perhaps this photograph frame. What's this photograph?
It appears to be from Mr. Garrideb's wedding. Looks very happy, doesn't he?
He does, but you can't make out his bride.
No, how unfortunate. Something must have struck the glass directly over the woman's face.
I wonder what happened. Probably best not to delve too deeply there.
The glass is broken, so you can't see the bride's face at all.
But no amount of cracks could hide the woman's plump form.
I think powerful would be kinder than plump, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, she certainly looks that. There's a lot of horsepower there. Not something you'd want to upset, that's for sure.
Oh look, have you noticed her wedding ring? It's very large, isn't it?
Yes, that's an unusual design.
It looks like some sort of embellished sunflower.
It looks like a Pokemon badge from Gen 1. Yeah, look, man, it's the 1800s. They were so used to fat shaming. Or no, actually, in the 1800s, wasn't that preferred if you were of powerful build? I'm almost positive.
This must have been when Mr. Garrideb was still in the army.
He seems to be carrying his rather stout bride effortlessly and beaming a smile at the same time.
I suppose he was very strong in his younger years.
Hard to imagine now. He's as thin as a rake. Well, it's probably this, but let me just make sure there's nothing else on the mantle that I need to... What really caused the damage in this room? Perhaps mortar shells?
These are shells for a cannon, are they? What a strange place to keep them. I imagine they have some significance to Mr. Garrideb from his time in the army. Ah, of course. He mentioned a battle to us before, didn't he? Do you remember? He said that he'd been shot in the knee. Perhaps it was one of these that hit him.
If a round that size had hit his knee, there'd be nothing left of it, or Mr. Garrideb for that matter. Mr. Sholmes has a Persian slipper, and this man has spent shells. Perhaps it's customary in Britain to display, well, rubbish on the mantelpiece. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they quite like it, don't they? Alright, it's probably something to do with this. Yeah, let's say that probably what did the beastly rampage was the newlywed bride. That's what I'm gonna assume.
Take that!
Nice. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that newlywed bride. Precisely, Mr. Naruhodo. No other explanation could possibly fit. Even though you said a lion earlier, but you know, whatever. Yes, this frame print clearly pictures your wife, Mr. Garrideb. And while we lament the fact that her face is obscured, we can still make out her mighty arms and note the considerable horsepower they must contain. Indeed, surely any woman of such powerful constitution would be honored to be described as a beast. Honored might be stretching a point. Too late. The fact remains that the beast, which so clearly savaged this room, was your wife, Mr. Garrideb. Ah! The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well! Yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself, unless it's the maid, which it probably is. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to, madam?
Me?
I pray you not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction.
It is?
Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. No.
The poor, fragile, defenseless woman is beside herself.
Well, I don't know about fragile.
Oh, dear. Anyway, Mr. Sholmes is quite right. There's no sign of Mrs. Garrideb anywhere.
But it seems there may be a clue as to her whereabouts. Yeah, of course it's the maid. Everybody knows it's the maid. A clue that this maid is trying to hide. I wonder where Mr. Garrideb's wife could be. Yep. Do you have the wedding ring somewhere on your person? Actually, are you the only... Oh, there it is. Haha. Found it.
She's wearing a very large ring, look. Oh yes, a sunflower design with a rather nice embellishments. And it's on the ring finger of her left hand, which means it's surely a wedding ring.
It looks like it's on there for life, too. I can't imagine it would slide off a finger of that size. God, they just can't stop.
That's not something to think, Mr. Naruhodo. That's something to think, Mr. Naruhodo, not to say. Do you know, Mr. Garrideb's wife in the photograph had a ring very much like this one. It was a large sunflower design as well.
Really? You have a great memory for these things. And somehow you don't. A large sunflower wedding ring. It's quite a coincidence that they have the same ring, isn't it? I think that's the proof we're looking for.
Take that!
Your wedding ring gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts.
Ah!
Indeed it does. That flowery band gleaming on your gleaming on your finger gives you away. For it is identical to the one shown on the hand of Mr. Garrideb's bride in this photographic print. In other words, you are no ordinary household maid. Now, you are Mr. Garrideb's lucky bride. You are Mrs. Garrideb herself.
Oh my... What?
So you're just pretending to be a maid so that you can appear middle class. Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. As you rightly surmised, this is the wife, yes, Miss My Joan. Rather let herself go, you might say, but she was a bally corker back... It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable of circumstances. After all, you are a retired army man, yet you are in the business of renting out rooms. I would assume, therefore, you have insufficient means to employ a maid. Would that be correct? It's not right, I tell you.
I was 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment. A man has his pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his employ.
Yes, here in London, one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all, though in my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are a folly. You mean Mr. Garrideb has his wife work as his maid? Precisely. Am I right, Mr. Garrideb? Yeah. Big oof. Only in company, obviously, but listen here, this must remain a secret. Tip-top secret, please! Okay, but why did she go on a rampage? Now, Mr. Garrideb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss had caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. Mr. Sholmes is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Garrideb's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman, that feels rather uncomfortable. But Mr. Garrideb is standing beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his beloved at all, has he? Oh, how true. So perhaps that supporting arm that seems to be propping up his head has some other significance then. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garrideb's pain is tangible, though. What could that pose of his really signify? Probably the fact that he was slapped upside the paducas.
Take that!
I saw that hours ago. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that slapped cheek. And of course, the deliverer of that impressive mark on your cheek that refuses to fade was you, Madame Joan Garrideb.
Well, yes.
You have been desperate to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. Ah!
How the blazes? How did you work that out, man?
Nothing escapes the notice of one trained in the art of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. To keep your other side from view.
Well,
Now, let us proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Garrideb to fly into a rage. And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is this pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer.
no. Not this time, not today.
Didn't Mr. Sholmes say that the bills were all for a lion fodder? Yes, but now we've established that the lion never existed, which can only mean that the thing responsible for gobbling up all that food was Mr. Garrideb's wife.
Mr. Naruhodo, she's a person, not a thing.
Yes, well, she's also a person who gave her husband a mighty slap around the face. One so hard that it left a perfect hand mark, in fact.
Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder?
I'd love to know the answer to that question myself. Huh. This bookmark? That can't be important. Oh, or maybe it is important.
Ah, someone must be reading this book at the moment. There's a bookmark here, look. Mr. Garrideb is clearly an avid reader.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't think this is a bookmark.
Oh no, so it isn't. It's a note written in a woman's hand. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary.
And look to the signature here.
Lip marks, made with lipstick. Oh, what a passionate and romantic gesture.
Don't get any ideas, Susato-san.
Oh dear, I'm sorry.
So this bookmark is actually a love note then. Alright. Seems like that's probably the issue.
Take that!
It's jealousy. A woman was stabbed as an act of pure jealousy. Yes, it is this love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here.
I don't know the Bali woman.
You don't know her?
That note wasn't written to me. It was just in the book. I don't know how it got there.
It was just in there, you say?
That's right. What I've been A likely story. Now listen here, Joan, old thing. I explained at that time. I bought the book at the second-hand place, and that note must have already been there.
So, the previous owner of the book was using the note as a bookmark, you mean?
That's right. What I've been A likely story. For heaven's sake, woman, look at the name. It's written to James. My name, in case you'd forgotten, is John. A likely story. Are you questioning my name now?
And there we have it. Arouse the suspicions of the female heart, and you unleash the beast with a most ferocious bite. Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack.
Unimaginable?
The aftermath of which can be clearly seen by observing the carpet over there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, dearie me.
What could have caused such a destructive outburst? This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has been inadvertently revealed the truth of me. Who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the very answer we need. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. No, but I would like a Tower of Cakes. That'd be pretty nice. But surely Miss Garrideb didn't eat the carpet? No, of course not. But there doesn't seem to be any doubt that the state of disarray that this room is in is a result of her wild temper.
No, that's true. So, this is the last part of Mr. Shome's deduction that we need to fix. We need only to follow Mr. Garrideb's gaze, or Mrs. Garrideb's gaze, and that will tell us the real answer.
Alright, let's see what we can see.
Yes.
Surely it doesn't have something to do with the circus, right? I don't see why that would matter. Probably the candlestick, right? Because the candle is out over there. But how would the candle have anything to do with it?
This looks like a very old candlestick, doesn't it?
The base looks too small. Surely it's very unstable. It looks to me like even the slightest knock would make it topple over.
Oh dear, that would be dangerous.
Wait, take a closer look at this.
There's one candle missing.
There's one candle missing.
Yes, I didn't notice that before.
Why is that, I wonder? Why is one candle of the three missing from its holder? Yep, and it's right over there. You can see. The carpet here has been ripped to shreds.
Yes, and according to Mr. Shone's deduction, the tears match those made by an Indian lion's teeth exactly.
Oh, look here. What is it? If you look closely at the edge, you can see scorch marks.
Oh yes, so you can.
Dude, the entire floor there looks burnt.
In that case, perhaps the carpet wasn't eaten in the normal sense at all.
Let's rethink this with that in mind. Alright, so definitely the candlestick. Let's go ahead and do it. It was Colonel Mustard in the living room with a candlestick. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the candlestick. Most illuminating, my dear fellow, and of course, the only possible way out of this logical labyrinth. Yes, the remnants of a ferocious attack in which the carpet was devoured are clearly visible. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly give the truth away.
Scorch marks?
It would appear that this room was the scene of a little marital altercation. Mrs. Garrideb's mighty arm muscles left an impression not only on her husband's face, but on the entire room. The force of a strike caused a candle to fall from the holder. Oh my god, wait, are you telling me that one slap caused this whole slew of events to happen? Oh my god. And in seconds, the carpet was alight and the whole corner of the room in flames.
Yes,
For the most ferocious beast in this world is neither a violent lion nor a vengeful woman, but fire. And in this room, that ferocious beast bared its claws and ran amok. Eloquently put, my dear fellow. So, you see, there is but one conclusion here. After the sparks of marital discord flew, this room was the scene of a fire. Literally perfect. She basically is a JoJo character. Yeah, I can see that being the case. Mr. Sholmes, sir, I salute you! Did I just watch that man die? What? Is that just a thing that happens? He just falls over sometimes? Wow. Elementary. Dude, doing those deductions is pretty fun. I really do like those. It's these dashed long winter nights, you know. Nothing to do but read in front of the fire. Luckily, there's a jolly good second-hand bookshop just around the corner. Buy all my old novels there. And in the pages of one particular novel, you discovered some rather illicit material.
For which your wife admonished you harshly, it seems.
Don't know about admonished. Demolished might be rather closer to the mark. And beast is most certainly an apt Here we go again. And the carpet? Was that destroyed by fire when a candle fell on the floor? Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. I was caught between the old Styx rage and the raging flames. You paint a torrid picture, sir. One that would have been most entertaining. That's sympathy for you. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. We've had to hide the mess behind that screen for the time being.
Over here, Mr. Garrett?
Well, you have nothing more to hide now, if you'll allow me. Alright, it's a bookcase. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Gosh. Then the wife started hurling things at me.
What a terrible sight it must have been.
There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it, I lost my favorite. A book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride? Oh yes, your notorious love of big cats coming through again. I assure you the title didn't influence my choice in the slightest.
So the poor man really did lose something dear to him as a result of the ferocious beast's rampage. Mr. Sholmes' deductions turned out to be correct once again. It can only be described as a great British wonder.
I tell you, it was total carnage. Flames everywhere and the old stick in full fettle.
Out of interest, what time of day was that?
I'm not sure I can remember. It was 2 days ago now. Let's see. Around 5 o'clock, I think.
So, at exactly that same time, as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below.
Even more terrifying on the inside, I can assure you. The whole of Blighty could have been flattened outside my window at that moment, and I wouldn't have noticed a dashed thing.
Oh, really?
I mean, there was a lot going on, for sure. Why is everyone so quiet now? Mr. Sholmes. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, what can I do for you? Well, I think we've got to the bottom of Mr. Garredeb's situation now. But what does it have to do with Mr. Natsume's circumstances? I can't help you there, I'm afraid. What? My dear fellow, if you recall, I did say as much from the outset. I warned you that although I knew the retired army man to be hiding something, I could not be sure whether his secret would prove to be of relevance or not. I do remember that, yeah. I just knew you were going to say that. Now, Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't lose heart. Bear in mind that all things fall into only one of two categories, those relevant to the case and those not. That makes no sense to me. Well, no matter. It is of far greater importance that you make up your mind now. Sorry? Visiting hours at the prison will soon be over. Oh no, is it that time already?
If we are to accept Mr. Natsume's case, we have official paperwork to attend to.
Yes, we do. So that's it. No more time to think.
Perhaps you'd like to betake yourselves to bidding us farewell now. I must prepare supper for Mr. Garredeb.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
Thank you both very much for your time.
Soseki-san will be waiting for us, and I'm going to have to give him an answer. Which of course will be yes. I mean, come on. Alright, back to the prison then. 19th February, Briar Road.
It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. We must hurry back to the prison.
Yeah, I know. Let's hail a carrot. Oh.
What's the matter?
It looks like something's going on over there in front of the Garadebs' house.
I know thee not, old man. Fall to thy prayers.
Who are you calling an old man, you rum-looking niminy-piminy?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Who's this Horatio fella, eh? What are you on about?
That chin. Oh my god. It is so imposing.
Excuse me.
What the? Who are you now?
I'm sorry, it just looked as though there might have been some problem here. And my associate here, Mr. Rinosuke Naruhodo, is a lawyer, you see.
A lawyer? What?
If I can be of any assistance, I'd be happy to help. I'm from Japan, but I have studied English law.
Tch. Fine, I'll be on my way for today. But you mark my words. This ain't over yet.
Nice posing.
Get thee to a nunnery.
He just quotes Shakespeare. That's all he does.
Do I look like a bloomin' nun to you?
This guy's great. Look at his smile.
I do hope you're not injured. Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so gentle, thank you.
What was that all about?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
So, wait, you only know so many quotes, I guess? I'm not Horatio either.
Forgive the inquiry, sir, but are you a lodger here, in the Garadeb residence? Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so right. Yes, I do dwell in this humble abode.
Mr. Garadeb mentioned that he had another lodger, didn't he? This must be the man. Do you happen to know the other lodger who lives on the first floor?
Oh, yes. A gentleman named Natsume. Oh, more worthy a polemist in my battle of words ne'er there could there be.
Sorry, battle, did you say?
Who is the stronger, Hamlet or Macbeth? Mr. Natsume and I sparred long into the night.
I see.
I don't fully understand, but it seems Mr. Natsume and this gentleman are acquaintances at least. So, fair maiden, so, good gentleman, I can tarry here no longer. Fare thee well.
Oh, I do love the dramatic.
I didn't really understand him, but I think he's returned to his room. It seems he's unaware of what's happened to Mr. Natsume, so he can't really help us.
With Soseki-san and that man as lodgers, the Garadeb house is certainly full of eccentrics. Anyway, I'll go and find a carriage.
Yes, I'm sure Mr. Natsume is eagerly awaiting our return.
Let's hope we can get to the prison before visiting hours are over. Hello, good sir. God, look at you. You're so twitchy, it's crazy.
Oh, it's you. You're here. You came. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I can't believe you came back. I'm so touched.
We are so sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, no. Think nothing of it. Relax. If I were a cat, I would purr with pleasure at the company of such fine compatriots. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nipponese.
I mean, if you're a Japanese guy, so I guess if you say it, it's fine. Oh, now, let's not get carried away. Oh, I quite agree. There's nothing more reassuring than the familiarity of one's native land. On the other hand, it is through friendship transcending international borders that one truly appreciates the fact. Such is my belief, at least.
It's you! The miserable, rotten spy! Airlock Sholmes!
Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing here? I have no intention of doing anything per se. Save observing, of course.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
Well, having encountered some curious reading material in that gloomful room, and having unmasked the secret identity of that eccentric pair,
I decided that I should drop in on my way home to see how our divested friend is faring.
Gloomful room?
At least your accommodation here offers a window, my dear fellow. In that sense, it is the superior option. Anyway, I must commend you on your taste in books. My day has been a delight and cost me not a penny.
Ah, you... How dare you? Sherlock Sholmes! I've had it. I'm through. I'm at the end of my rope. I should never have come to Great Britain. It was a terrible mistake. Haunted by spirits in those accursed lodgings, no doubt my luck will be cursed in tomorrow's trial as well. My whole life is bedamned!
What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? He mentioned that once before, didn't he? That his lodgings were cursed, I mean. And there is much truth in Mr. Mustache's words. What? Cursed is a wholly appropriate description, I would say, for the man's lodgings, and indeed for tomorrow's trial. What's that supposed to mean? I guess let's talk about it. Mr. Natsume, what did you mean by what you said just now, about the trial tomorrow being cursed?
Oh no, why are you looking so grave? You're making me nervous. I was just getting carried away, that's all. I didn't mean anything by it.
Oh, I see. That's really agitated him.
You don't mean the trial really is cursed somehow?
No, I do not mean that at all. Please be okay. Are you referring to the prosecutor, the Reaper of the Bailey?
The Reaper? Oh no, what do you mean? Please, tell me. Summarize it succinctly in 16 salient words.
No defendant has ever survived a trial in which the Reaper stands for the prosecution. Ever.
Oh my goodness, can it really be true? That was 16 words exactly.
Yesterday, Mr. Naruhodo successfully defended someone against the Reaper. But then, after the trial was over, the defendant passed away in unusual circumstances.
Mr. McGilded. What?
Ah, I'm impressed, Mr. Sato. You have an eye for detail. Actually, the Lord Chief Justice told us. Mr. Sholmes, surely it can't be that having failed to have the accused convicted, Lord Van Zieks killed the man himself.
Oh no, he couldn't have, surely.
I really don't think so. I really don't think so. You have some wonderful notions. Sorry? The man isn't a mass murderer. He's a court prosecutor, my dear fellow.
Oh, yes. Why, of course he is.
Of course he is. Then why are you trying to scare me? Yeah, it could be said, however, that the real truth about the man is even more terrifying than your hypothesis. What on earth do you mean by that? Alright, let's talk about Lord Van Zieks. Van Zieks is quite an exceptional man. However, in London courts of law, exceptional does not equate to winning every case without exception.
Ah, so that's good.
Sosuke-san looks like he's going to cry tears of joy. As you are no doubt aware, in a British criminal trial, there is both a judge and a jury. The judge officiates based on the letter of the law, whilst the jury offers public opinion and common sense. It is an excellent system whereby the defendant's guilt is considered from several points of view. However, public opinion in particular is somewhat easily manipulated. Right, yeah, I did notice that in the last trial. Criminals and corrupt lawyers, for that matter, can use it to their advantage. By any means at their disposal, contriving evidence, calling imposters as witnesses, and so on. By such underhand means, those who would want to are able to sway the jury. Which means that even in the light of irrefutable evidence, the prosecution can fail.
But it means that the wrong verdict can be passed.
And sadly is from time to time, my dear madam. It is simply the reality of the situation. And that's all right? That's not a good judicial system, of course. However, those indicted by Lord Van Zieks cannot escape justice. Their fate is sealed.
Oh my.
Though the adjudication may see them leave the courtroom with their freedom, within months, they all disappear. It is most striking.
Disappear? But how?
Ah, by all manner of misfortune, sir.
Perhaps they are trampled under a passing carriage. Perhaps they fall into the Thames and drown. The Thames, right? That's how you say that? Perhaps they are suddenly overcome by a raging fever, or perhaps attacked by highwaymen. Oh no, no, no. All examples of the reality of events here in London, I'm afraid, Mr. Haruhodo. And I certainly don't like that. Ah, I knew it. I'm a dead dodo, done for, doomed. When you said accursed lodgings before, you were referring to your room at Mr. Garrideb's house, I assume. Do you mean to say that you believe the place is cursed? It's been a year now since I came to Great Britain, but I'd only been in London a week before I started to notice strange feelings in myself. That didn't take long then. Everywhere I looked, there were foreign faces staring at me, laughing behind my back. I was sure people were talking about me. I started to become nervous about going outside. They were always staring at me, all the time, from dawn till dusk. So I shut myself away in my room, but even that didn't help. The fear wouldn't go away. Wow, I'm sorry. You must have been very lonely, having been away from your homeland for such a long time. What do they call that? I think it's agoraphobia, right? I had to move a number of times, most recently to that room on Briar Road a week ago now. Yes, oh, why did you choose there? It seems a little inconvenient. The rent is cheap. I have so little money, it appealed to me straight away. Of course, I asked why it was so affordable. The landlord just simpered and said, "The room is cursed." Oops. He quickly tried to cover his mistake, but it was too late. So I told him, "If you have something to say, then say it. But if not, don't mention it in the first place." Yes, well said. But it was true. It was all true. You mean the room really is cursed, then? Ever since I moved into that windowless hellhole, my sleep has been plagued with nightmares. I awake feeling as though I'm being choked to death. Oh yeah, I know a thing or two about nightmares. I mean, literally, just last night, I had a dream where one of my friends was, like, having an extramarital relationship with my mother. That was so weird. Oh man, I did not sleep well after waking from that. Anyway, and in my waking hours, people are stabbed in front of me as I walk down the street. I'm branded a killer, thrown in prison. Nobody wants to know me. I'm surrounded by scary, sinister spirits. If only there was someone, just one person on my side. Can no one find it in his or her heart to believe in me? Really, no one at all? To believe. Yes, to believe. Aye, there's the rub. Nope. Dang it. I did not mean to go through this again. I wish I could auto-skip all of this. Come on, come on. We've talked about all this. Please. I don't want to go through this again. God, Susato-san is so proper. And does she only bring the one kimono? I guess I only brought the one, like, student's garb, didn't I? Anywho. Come on, come on. I didn't realize this was such a long conversation. Ugh. Okay. To believe. Mr. Sholmes. Ah, me, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what can I do for you? It's about the case on the SS Buria, if you recall. The Buria. The Buria. Oh, that case. The one with the snake. Yes, the one with the snake. At that time, I was a suspect, but you believed in me and listened to my side of the story. And you helped us to investigate. I did I? Interesting. What I want to know is why? Why did you believe me? I see, yes, you mean... Because you were a grimly dressed, shady Ishtin fellow found with the victim in a locked room? Well, if you like, yes. I'm a little surprised that the answer requires explanation, my dear fellow. It's quite simple, really. You said I didn't do it. But I could have been lying. Surely you must have had your doubts. You must have suspected me a little. Maybe. I think perhaps you've misunderstood. I neither recall believing in you, nor in that which you were telling me. What? Yeah, I mean, he kept the shackles on me, so... You see,
The only things I believe in are those I choose to believe in.
What? What do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
I make up my own mind about what it is to be believed and what is not. If I should like to believe in something, I do. The circumstances can hang as far as I'm concerned. Oh, the circumstances can hang as far as I'm concerned. Ah, but you had your doubts. In that case, I should have made an elementary error of judgment, nothing more. Betrayal of trust is an overused excuse, in my opinion. Meaning? Whether or not one should trust another is, in the final analysis, down to oneself. It is a matter of whether or not one can trust oneself. Yes, he's right. He's right, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Whether or not I can believe in myself. A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. Kazuma, I love you. You were so right, Kazuma. Well, my dear fellows, it is time we were leaving, I believe.
Already?
Visiting hours are over. The guard will be here shortly to escort us out. There is a restaurant near here that serves excellent trout. Would you care to join me?
Oh dear. There is never enough time, is there?
Well, Mr. Natsume, if you'd like, in the trial tomorrow, I'd be happy to represent you.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
As I said, I'd only experienced a British courtroom for the first time yesterday, and although the man I was representing was found not guilty, I lost sight of something crucial.
Something crucial?
What to believe in, the defendant, justice or the truth, how to believe even. But I think I finally worked it out. I've decided I must believe in myself above all else, to trust my instincts.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo.
And my instincts are telling me that you, Mr. Natsume, are innocent of this crime, and it's imperative that we prove that in court.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
I will fight for your innocence until the bitter end, with every weapon available to me. So I hope you'll permit me to represent you tomorrow.
As I said when we first met, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who will listen to me in my native tongue.
Of course, Mr. Natsume. It would be fair to say, Mr. Naruhodo, that your mind was, in many ways, made up from the outset. You merely needed the events of today to fully realize it. Yes, I think you're right about that. It's been a roundabout journey, but I got there in the end. Miss Usato.
Yes?
Would you be willing to stand by my side tomorrow and help me in court?
Absolutely. As I said this morning, you may consider me your personal judicial assistant.
Glad to have you. The shocking events of yesterday's trial still weigh heavily on my mind, but it's time to stop looking backwards. Kazuma believed in me, and Mr. Sholmes believes in me now too. So it's time. Time that I learned to believe in myself. Sotsuki-san has no one. He's all alone, so it's my job to help him, to fight in his corner. Tomorrow, in the courtroom, with all the strength I can muster. To be continued? Well, right now we're going to continue it. I definitely have time for another section.
Yes, let's go ahead and save the current progress. I don't see why not.
Alright, 20th of February, 9:23 a.m., the Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought that we'd be back here again so soon?
We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible.
Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass.
Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right.
Guten Morgen. I don't know why I said it like that. I didn't realize your eyes are so red from crying. Oh. Ah, Mr. Natsume, good morning.
Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot.
The early bird catches a worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally?
Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume.
I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? Also, sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. I keep doing these streams without eating. Maybe one day I'll learn, but probably not. I got a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Yeah, it kind of is. Well, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Miss Susato?
I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea.
So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Oh, actually, I guess that would make sense. Lord Van Zieks. Is that right, Miss Susato?
I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one.
I knew it.
Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday.
Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zieks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was.
I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's.
But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country.
Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question that the patrons are asking, and they are all speculating various answers.
Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of a century to some of us.
Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it.
Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention, but there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago.
Yes, I agree.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, it's you!
Me?
Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it's you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper! Please! I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers!
I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck.
Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such a frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive? Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, like, everybody that I've defended, which has been me twice and then one other person, has been found not guilty. So, it's probably okay. It's probably okay. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. You did. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck, but I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
You're not alone here with us, You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side.
Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquires. I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. And here we go. Right then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yeah. Yes! I do love being in court. This is it. my second appearance in a British courtroom, and my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma, because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last, just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. '20th of February, 10 a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Oh my God, Mr. Fairplay is on the jury. I saw that.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord.
The defense is ready, my lord.
The Japanese are a truly fascinating breed.
Sorry, what?
Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago, a mere amateur.
Do you have a point?
Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Japanese arrogance.
Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent.
Very true, and a most fascinating if dark trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted, and his unfortunate violent end.
Wow, okay.
Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle.
Fettle, of course, meaning the shape of your body. You know, it's basically saying that you're in good health.
Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear.
Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow.
I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that mustache foreigner did the deed.
Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Sorry. Didn't quite catch that.
It's all kind of the same types of people-ish, except for maybe jury number 3.
Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Sosuke Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
Just look at that shallow in complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Oh, so you're racist. Freaking amazing. I'd love to have a racist juror.
Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollowed chalice here in this great chamber.
How many of these do you have? You say, like, your hollowed chalice, which makes it sound like there's one, but really, I think I've seen, like, 5 or 6, maybe? Jeez.
Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please.
Oh, it's gonna be Gregson? What's up, dude?
Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be.
Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure?
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, Elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Well, okay, you think it was the accused. You can't just say that it was the accused. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. Alright, let's take a look at that, just so I can make sure I'm not missing anything. So a young woman was rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. The victim is thought to be Olive Green, female of stout build in her early 20s. Location was the pavement of Briar Road, east side. The reporting officer was a Rolly Beat. Huh. Okay. Some additional notes. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Alright, that makes sense. Other details unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from a large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Alright. Oh, I never took a look at this receipt. Okay, customer Mr. Natsume. The sum of 2 shillings tendered in receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gaborio, or something, and Canterbury Yearnings. I don't know if knowing those titles is going to actually be of any importance, but so be it. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now.
With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman.
Even the scragged-looking Sosuke-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
Alright, maybe I can flip it up and see if there's any additional things to glean.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
Well, before we get to that, Judge, let me take a look at this knife. Yeah, nothing crazy on the outside, but we should probably go ahead and open it. Huh. Not very sharp, is it? It looks extremely blunt at the end, in fact.
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip.
A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Oh, or it cracked off. Okay, yeah, that probably makes more sense. You're right, well spotted, Miss Susato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you?
Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that situation, for sure. But that's probably all the information I can get from this knife. Okay, so on to motive. From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim?
I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. If theft and grievance have been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way. Fuck this wine bottle, I guess.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have sourced its hollowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here.
What?
Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Japanese student. I don't want to say it when he says it. I don't know. It probably doesn't even matter, like, honestly. Yes, sir.
Oh, is this testimony? Oh, it is testimony. Cool. Let's do it. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. There was being a number of old books he'd just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Alright.
Old books, you say?
Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime taken immediately after the incident.
Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring.
I'm probably going to have to take a close look at those books.
I will take the photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector.
Alright, yeah.
You Japanese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat.
Wow. Jeez, I mean, this was initially released only in Japan, right? It only recently came out in America. And I can see, like, if I was playing this in Japan, like, I would hate this guy. Like, this guy's just so racist. Ugh. Alright, can I get a closer look at what these books actually are? Oh, no, I can't, apparently. Wow, the magnifying glass is really not helpful. Anywho, okay, that's not really that helpful to me.
Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zieks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mr. Sato?
Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened. I don't remember.
So I was walking along that accursed pavement. I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. What if she had been stabbed beforehand and, like, didn't know? Huh. A green overcoat.
Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next?
The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back.
There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes.
Ugh.
It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. Alright, Gregson. Let's see if I can fuck up your testimony anywhere. Yeah. 5. Visibility. Well, was there no one around?
Hold it!
Because there was the patrol cop, right? How are you able to state that with any certainty?
Quite simply, my learned friend. Because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us.
Ah, yes. Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? But wouldn't the witnesses have been around? I'm confused. That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am.
Then we must hear their testimony.
The prosecution will of course call him to the stand, should it be necessary.
But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen...
I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by grass street lights.
Ah.
The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to...
It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Okay, I mean... Where can I press him that would work?
Hold it!
Maybe at the belongings? Mr. Natsume's belongings?
I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor.
That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course.
The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example.
He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there.
You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back?
That must be what happened, my lord. Yes.
Hold it!
Oh, there's another sentence about this? Alright. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis.
Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector?
Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at this street map again, I'm afraid.
The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books.
A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meersham Street.
As it happens, the accused is currently living in his lodgings on the other side of Briar Road, the opposite end.
Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Something like this.
Alright.
Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from this particular shop.
Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being... Yeah, actually, because we have the receipt, right? It's from your books, which is a completely different bookstore. The bookshop's name, of course. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance.
Maybe.
Oh, well, you know. That's a very Phoenix Wright move. The leaning back, hand behind the head. I like that one a lot. I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue.
Very well. Not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector.
Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? Yep. Here's why I present something that tells you that you're completely wrong, my friend. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books.
And you found that in the accused's room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it.
Go on.
This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume.
Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Eh?
What?
Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop?
Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books.
It's just that... Well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it. Where's the objection?
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
No. He could have a different route home. I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here if that might be of any help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Could that be true?
My. It rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said?
Absolutely. It absolutely could be right.
Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment?
Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Meerschaum Street going east. Huh, okay. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Oh.
My learned Japanese friend is obviously in training to be a clown the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus.
Wow.
You put that glass down now, or I'll pour it for you.
I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed.
Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Yeah, not going super great, is it?
Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Japanese friend.
Dude.
Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Ah. Well, shoot. I thought I was really onto something, too.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try.
What did I say, huh? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Sosuke-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from Your Books, but... I mean... he could have taken the long way home. But I mean, I have no proof of that. I have no way of knowing which way he actually took home. I mean, he could just get on the witness stand and tell us. I mean, that's probably the most likely thing that's going to happen, I would guess. I mean, I think that I'm forced to raise an objection here. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, counsel.
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from Your Books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. Yeah, I mean, maybe you want to take the long way around for some reason. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. Ah. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take the longer route home?
Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words,
The accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings, as is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
But, aha, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home.
I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection.
Excuse me? Excuse me?
That's right, he said, and as I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which road he took home.
Wow. Okay. I don't believe this!
I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors?
But even if that is the case, the defense still...
I agree with Lord Van Zieks, wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean...
We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
Wow, I can't believe they voiced all of those. Trials in Britain are really freaking short, apparently. My God.
It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous.
Which could be a problem.
To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow.
Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial? Rights of the defense, written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago.
Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with a summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Japanese whippersnapper and his uncus refusal to throw in his alley. I've never seen that word in my life. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Let's do it.
For pity's sake, that little Japanese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. But bourbon books, no, not worth a visit.
I didn't see any obvious ones, so I'm gonna have to take a second look at those.
With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue,
Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
All right. You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord.
I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it.
Yes, we can.
Why is Inspector Gregson back there? Whatever. Alright. Huh. Maybe these 2? The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Not in winter. The poor one was attacked from behind. Okay, you are not helpful at all. Like, legitimately. You're just talking about the bookshop. You're not helpful at all. Oh, this is suddenly a lot more difficult. God. Can I press? Oh wait. I can. Oh, I can press. Excuse me, but aren't you...
Yeah, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago.
Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you?
That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute.
Sorry?
Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals.
Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge.
Now, there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop.
If I could turn back the clock...
Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. And free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't.
Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. Mr. First was the hatter from that case. I'm gonna press on all these, because I'm not really, like, super sure on any of them. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly that funny little Japanese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman has simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? Wow. I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could have possibly committed this awful crime. Ugh. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple.
Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well for her.
Hold it!
Jeez, I'm supposed to pit these people together? I'm not positive on any of them. But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean? What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. tonight's dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yes. Why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I just didn't make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. Huh. A reason why Sosuke-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. Well, that might have something to do with this guy, right?
Hold it!
Sorry. Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Oh, that's... alright. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worst after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. Oh! What? Are you the person in green? Oh my god, really? I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. I'm sorry. Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo, cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. Alright. Okay. So, you have something to say now, right? So am I supposed to pit you against juror number 2 then? Because, yeah. Yeah, right? This has to be right.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning.
A flaw? Where are you talking about, counsel?
Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. My, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. He then returned home on foot. But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we're all well aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously. Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him on that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course,
to juror number 6.
Ah, are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today?
That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man, it has a somewhat similar build to the victim.
Well, look at that.
My goodness me. Sorry, you need a pee?
And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in green overcoat fell.
On Calabash Road.
Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home.
Oh my!
You idiot old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, Is it a crime to slip over on the ice?
I don't remember the voice I was doing for him.
Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you.
And I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind, is it?
Well,
You did that so aggressively. That's a nice system you got here. I quite like it.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful.
Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat.
Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one or more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume, we might be able to tip the balance completely.
Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent by whatever means we have at our disposal.
Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord. Yeah. Actually, I didn't press on you and that guy, huh?
Whatever is the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garadev, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume's room.
the master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand.
She's keeping up that charade? Ugh, this is gonna be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean.
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, does he?
Yes, that's right, although he's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit such a crime as this?
Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort.
What?
Spending all the time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something.
Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more.
Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough damning things already. Yeah, we get that you don't care, but do you actually have a reason? A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes.
Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's.
Huh.
The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids.
Oh, I see. That must be very hard.
I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up and fixed it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is.
So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you?
That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was.
Right, everyone just happened to be around, huh? What? Another coincidence?
That's right. Meersham Street it was.
Meersham Street. That's the northern street, if I remember. On the map, Mr. Naruto, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please.
What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now?
Please, sir, it's important.
Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Meersham Street from dawn till dusk.
Okay. But what does it have to do with anything? Let's see. Oh, yeah, I mean, did you see him on Meersham Street? Can I press again on this? So, if I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you were doing road maintenance that day?
That's right. Like I said, you get a lot of burst gas and water pipes underground in the middle of the winter. It's the only time of year fellows like me can actually make a few bob. And I'm missing out today.
And when you say from dawn till dusk...
Well, the work has to be completed within the day, see? No coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening.
I wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on this street map the exact location of the works you were carrying out.
Give it here, then. Let me have a look. Right. Let's see, then.
Okay.
Here we are, Meersham Street. Yes, it was just here, like. It was a tidy dig, I can tell you. We had to get all through the drifts of snow that had frozen solid.
And at what sort of time did you finish the work?
Well, we started in the morning, and we can't have finished before gone 6, I'd say. The snow had stopped coming down, but it was long past dark for sure.
That means the roadwork was still going on when Miss Green was attacked around 5 o'clock. Roadwork on Meersham Street, huh? Okay. Oh, so also pedestrians can't pass, meaning I can pit you against juror number 3.
Objection!
Perfect. Perfect. Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, counsel. Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
Eh, what? I just want to get this done and dusted.
Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What? Wait, what do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meersham Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meersham Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. Wait, what do you think, sir?
Well, yes, if you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings.
Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, huh?
Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice.
Yes!
My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may.
Yes?
I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened.
Well, thank you, good sir. I really appreciate that.
What about you, sir?
Who, me? Well, all right then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say. A street worker true and true. Alright,
the scales of justice have tipped back in my favor.
Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4. If the noes have it, not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Again, you're gonna object? Come on, like, just accept it, you know? It's fine, don't even worry about it.
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection, only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy.
Lord Van Zeeks?
It seems I must retract my earlier remark.
What do you mean?
I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful.
Dude, you did the same thing at the last trial. Let's get some new stuff in here, okay?
Yet we've just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh?
Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth.
Indeed, stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement, which you have excavated, sir. That's right, it took me the whole day, and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Now, my learned Japanese friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all.
In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor.
Are you trying to tell me that he jumped? Are you serious?
Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Eh, me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no.
What?
And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? Eh, I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway, and we just turn any gentle folk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town.
Ah. Is that true, is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road.
Ugh, crushed in a single sentence.
And, old man.
Cold man, you can talk.
You say that at around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Japanese behind you at the time?
Oh, I can't say as I remember. You don't remember?
How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it.
Ah. Dude, I'm telling you, if I can get a close look at the books in the photo, all I need to see is if they match with the receipt.
Ora, Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not prefer it during this summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel.
So the cloak has come off.
So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over.
What? What are you talking about?
My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
It's next witnesses. Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as a witness, no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing that to the very end, until this battle is over. Alright.
Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court.
Constable Rolly Beats, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say that I'm this young town hero's wife.
I don't know what voice I want to give her. What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
Why do I keep wanting to give her an accent? No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired.
Hardly surprising. Was being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world.
Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually.
Indeed. Apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I've had collapsed long ago.
But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby, he's a man of honor.
But super overworked, I mean, damn. And a man of slumber.
On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat?
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly? Constable Rolly Beats, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
What a great witness he's going to be.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog and the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and we went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day.
Okay, but you're the one that's doing all the talking. Your husband is saying nothing.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear. This policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed.
It's death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate bechancing. Bechancing, and on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that.
Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed, however. This cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon.
What do you mean by that?
My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene.
They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Sosuke Natsume.
And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure.
It is a big deal. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. Alright, so where do I want to press first, huh? Wedding anniversary. Yeah, I mean, that's not really... Two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Okay, but where were you? Two silhouettes.
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man.
That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does.
And you're certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby?
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? Oh, what? Oh, yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians.
Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said?
Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir.
Man, she loves a man in uniform. She is so starry-eyed.
I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Wow, they are sickening. I love it. I love that. God, I love PDA so much. They're still maintaining that there was no one around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly.
Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed.
Yeah. Scattered something? Like, are you not sure of what it was? Scattered something. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time, but when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, it was some old books.
I see. Old books.
Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them around where the victim lay on the pavement.
Indeed. As clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker.
Oh, we saw him. It was the man in the dog without a question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything.
Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at that poor, defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes, and then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here.
I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue.
Yes, sir.
Ran straight over, and then you went for help at a nearby police box.
Hold it!
I guess I just have to start pressing everything because I don't know which of these is actually going to give me what I need. Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Oh yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Alright, that makes sense.
Very laudable, Mr. Pete. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance.
That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat and the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh, please. You're making us blush, isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir.
Let's move on, shall we? Okay, I'm gonna have to press this. I know I do. But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
What? Yes, it was the accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Sotsuki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So, that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no, then what do we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here,
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Ugh, why do I always seem to be so up against it? Jeez Louise.
Hold it!
Okay, so you had no time to change after work, sure. Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down the ground, doesn't it, darling?
What?
I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly. I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Yeah, that really doesn't seem healthy. That means like you don't actually love the guy, you just love the uniform. And that's not okay. You have to love the person if you're gonna marry them.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct?
That's right, sir, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end.
What's that now?
My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure.
So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
They're so cute.
Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps?
And then, kindly describe what happened next.
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Where's this coming from?
Oh,
yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right, is it? Well, out with it!
What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped?
I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one.
Yep, okay, here it comes.
And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is.
That will do, Miss Beat.
No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decided to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fist down.
Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling?
Yeah? Sure. Okay. 4 books? Because I can only see 3 here. You know what? I'm gonna press on it. It's fine. Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say.
Those purchased by the accused at the nearby secondhand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime.
Well, Miss Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with your tales of the powers of your recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur somebody or other, and What's It Yearnings.
Okay, sure.
And then there was, a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the Thingamy's something. You see?
No, that wasn't very helpful at all, in fact. Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Oh, well, they were all along those lines, I'm quite sure.
There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have to answer to. Wow, this man just pulled out a gun in court. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So I'm gonna go back to that, and I'm gonna bring up the picture because it only has 3 books in it, and I guess that just has to be the contradiction they want me to find. But it doesn't seem like that important of a contradiction, to be completely honest. Like you can just say that the 4th book is out of frame. So, I don't know, whatever, I guess. Anyway, let's present the picture.
Objection!
So, you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them.
Yeah,
The picture of Monsieur somebody, What's It Yearnings, a meal for someone, and the Thingamy's something.
I'm sorry, Miss Beat, but there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
It's simply that at the scene of the crime, only 3 books were found, not 4.
What?
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry?
It's that big old lump of a dead body. The lady's so large, her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all.
Corpse? Yeah, let's at least try to remember that the poor woman isn't dead, even if we're insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Miss Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you describe.
Why not?
Fascinating. And from your assured tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume.
Ah, evidence.
Counsel, you will present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have that the accused did not drop 4 books?
Well, the receipt, obviously.
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt.
From your books?
That's the one. This receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day, and as you can see, Only 3 books are listed.
No.
Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon. So, it cannot be denied that, though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no, 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 no. No!
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Japanese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that the 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene, a fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. Ah. So you've striven to avert attention from that by the dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh.
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print.
That print? You mean to say...
Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand.
The Lion's Pride. That's the book that Mr. Garadeb said that he was missing. It's the 4th book.
As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso.
No. No! Son of a gun.
Ora, ora.
There, you see? Look at that. Look.
Yes,
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir.
but I studied the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Miss Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq.
What's it? Yearnings?
Canterbury Yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gabbro, in fact. And the court has just heard the witness remembers the titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Miss Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless.
But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Miss Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in the photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim.
The victim was holding her own book? I wonder, what became of that 4th book?
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. We will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord.
Okay, another photograph. And Lion's Pride, which for some reason is going to involve Garadeb somehow. But he's not going to come in as a witness, probably.
The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add.
What?
You seem surprised, my learned friend.
Well, okay, let's take a quick look at this evidence, just so I make sure. Yeah, that is definitely the Lion's Pride. Nothing else is crazy in this photo. What is bothersome is that this got all damaged. Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book, recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Oh,
Okay, so I got to update it. Cool. Yeah, nothing out of place. Alright.
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard... Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I've heard of a book by that name before, and very recently, too.
It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
Well, we all know where it's from, so it should be fine.
But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious, longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat.
Wait, you guys are already married, though. So,
perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions, should the court waste any more time on this Japanese travesty. Or is it the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you do now? I mean, I don't know what raising an objection is going to do for me, but waiting and seeing isn't going to help either, unless I do another summation examination with a jury. I don't know if that's feasible right now. So I'll just go ahead and raise an objection, see what happens.
Objection!
I'm not done yet.
No, my learned friend, it's over. The last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate.
Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't think of what to say.
If I may, Lord Metazix, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Oh?
Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed, for a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this.
Oh.
I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So, you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable.
Mr. Naruhodo.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance. So, the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato, please.
Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you not?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Yes, I understand, and thank you, Mr. Sato, but I already did it. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let this go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Dude, he was looking at me like with daggers. Whoa, it's kind of exciting, actually.
The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We've already discussed the fourth book at length.
Other than it being the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it.
Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes. My lord, it's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which is in the 4th book?
Well, I'll have you know that it's very obviously this. I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back? What are you... Oh, good gracious. It's been burned to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is nearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to do.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Japanese friend?
Oh,
Were I to concede the point, it bears no relation to the case. There is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide?
a charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered?
Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Well, obviously, it's John Garadeb.
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb.
The landlords?
And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Miss Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
How do I do that voice?
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house.
Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel?
A fire, my lord. Yep, it happened.
Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a baldy thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The baldy furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride.
Oh, The Lion's Pride.
By Jove, the very same title that's the subject of this debate.
Oh, dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire, in which case it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rory?
Absolutely not, sir. My Brigitte would never raise a finger against me, sir.
Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of him, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I back up against the window under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime? No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there's no report of the Garrideb's window's pane being broken.
That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time it...
Not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene of the crime was a flaming projectile flown by Mr. Garrideb's wife?
I believe it's a possibility, my lord. And that I do. That I do.
That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Japanese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But, think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache. And he ran away from the scene, too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me.
Sorry. What's that?
Well, it would appear that ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zykes? Zeeks? I still don't know. Whatever. In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage.
No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been...
If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time.
I love that he does that. What? No, forgive the discourtesy this time?
Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty.
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 Guilty. Yeah, it's happening again. Okay. Son of a gun.
Thank you for that unambiguous response.
That's twice now. It's over.
Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet.
You're not suggesting.
Of course. The defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
Whew. My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right to a summation examination.
You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve?
I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Heck yeah. To be continued. And yeah, that's where I'm going to have to end today's stream, because I am super hungry and I've not eaten breakfast, let alone lunch. So let's save the progress and get the heck out of here. Man, I'm liking this case, but I don't know, it seems like nothing interesting is coming up, really. This is mostly a me versus the jury type case. Oh, and I do like this couple. They're cute. The beats are very cute. Alright. Well, with that being said, I'll either be playing this game later tonight, tomorrow morning, or during the always scheduled Saturday evening play. So, I hope you all join me next time, as we hopefully get to the end of this case, I would assume. But till then, see ya.